And good morning. It is time for the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRivers.com. And now your host is in his seat, ready to go. I see steam coming from your silo, stinking grain in that silo. It's got to be...
This is the real stuff, I'm telling you.
Mountain grown.
Mountain grown. What was the guy's name that used to do the commercial?
Juan Valdez.
That's it. That's what I got. He done a good job, I'm telling you. Listen, good morning, Michigan. In the studio with me is Ludwig von Wiedendorsky and obviously Brian Thomas. And I'm not sure if Miles Bauer is going to be calling in or not. He's texting me, telling me he's having technical difficulties on his end. So I'm not convinced I understand what he's doing. But at some point during the show today, I expect to be joined by the Michigan Republican Party chairperson, Ronna Romney-McDaniel. So she was going to be giving us an update on what's really happening on the floor and what to anticipate tonight and what taking a temperature of the party folks that are in attendance at the convention, et cetera, et cetera. But listen, while we wait for that, in fact, she may be calling during the Enigma Report. Now that is an enigma.
Yeah.
Which means we'll probably do a little bit of a flip-flop here in what we're going to be doing. But listen, have you been watching, Ludwig?
Yeah. Every night.
Listen, if you're a political wonk, this is the supreme Super Bowl. Not just the Super Bowl. That happens all the time. That's like an every year event. This is a once a year, sometimes once every 4 years rather. And in truth, when you're looking at putting the party back in the White House, it can be a 4 or every 8 year event. It's a big deal.
It's like the Olympics.
It's even better than the Olympics. I don't care about half that stuff. And usually it's so often some country that doesn't like us, and who cares? It just doesn't do nothing for me.
I'm an Olympics fan.
I believe that.
I grew up with it.
You can tell by looking at you.
I probably even know some of the athletes from when you were a kid.
Wow. Pretty good. Back when all of the cameras were done in black and white.
Yeah, like Jesse Owens. Were you there?
Uh-huh.
Like
I was there.
Or something?
Yeah, I think that was the 30s. But so anyhow, what did you think? What's your take so far?
I think some of the speakers they've had are very impressive. I'm not impressed with Fox's coverage last night, like during the roll call. I want to hear each state's little propaganda thing. I think that's part of the enamor of it all. Like, we're, Michigan, we're so-and-so, and this state's the blah, blah, blah state. And they kept talking over all of it unless it was something they found that was important. I was disappointed with that. But when you see, like, Marcus Luttrell, and if you don't know who he is, he's the lone survivor of a SEAL team that went out
right
in a thing.
That's a big deal, I'm telling you.
And They actually made a movie about it, which was fantastic if you haven't seen it. And he was there speaking on Trump's behalf. And then you had Willie Robertson, who's everybody knows him from Duck Dynasty, the TV show, but he's not a TV star. It's just how he became more known. He's a small business owner. They make duck calls and everything, and he's helped grow that business from his dad's hobby to a business. So you're talking legitimate people there that aren't just politicians, but...
We would just count politicians.
Well, you expect them to be there, right?
Because they gotta.
They have to.
No, obviously not.
Well, and I guess
Kasich
not, right?
says, I don't gotta be there.
It's in my state, and I'm not coming.
Yeah, the funny part about that is, and I really want to talk about that for a minute. In 1980, the RNC convention was in Detroit, Michigan. And at the time, the mayor of Detroit was Mayor Coleman Young. Now, I was alive in 1980. It's really the year that I watched politics before that, but I was very young. And that was Reagan's, I watched Reagan kind of become aware of who he was in 76, but I was still in school back then and probably not dialed really, really tight. In 1980, I was on it. I was paying attention. Reagan fired me up. He brought me to politics. If someone were to ask me right now, Mike, why in the world are you doing a radio show? Ronald Reagan caused me to do this. Really, he got me excited about the possibilities of what America can be for everybody. He really did. All of the cliches that people mock now, the city on the hill and all, it has meaning and value. He excited me. But anyways, in 1980, the RNC convention was in Detroit, and Mayor Coleman Young, who was a lifelong Democrat, he'd been a a Michigan State Senator as a Democrat. He was, the city of Detroit mayor for what seemed like forever. I think he was mayor from 74 through 94. Wow. So, I mean, he was the city of Detroit for a long time. Very, very liberal Democrat. But it was in his home city. It's in his home state. So forget what he thinks about the partisan divide. The man goes to the convention to represent the city of Detroit, his city. And I tell you that whole story because I am absolutely flabbergasted at Kasich. I really am. Now, I've been hearing all the time about, Cruz better endorse, Cruz better do this, Cruz better do that, or I'm sick of the cruisers because of the debate that their delegates. And listen, I applaud them, keeping in mind I'm a cruiser, but I support Trump. He won. I'm on his team. Let's go and let's go beat Hillary. But I get why the cruisers have earned a right to say these are the things we want to make sure are not thrown out of the Republican Party. I salute them. Mm-hmm. And I think they earned the right to do that. And I think Cruz earned the right tonight to address the audience. I believe those things. But I also think that Kasich really hurts himself. And I think he's a... I can't find nasty enough words to describe my feelings for him.
He reminds you of the kid, I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Yeah, I don't... Listen, if someone called and said, Mike, did you hear Kasich left the party? I would be happy. I would be applauding. I didn't like him ideologically. I didn't like his approach. But this is really ugly. This is really ugly. Cruz and Trump went after each other hard.
Yeah.
I don't care if you were a Trump-publican or a Cruiser. Both sides took some heavy pounding. And the delegates and the grassroots people that were involved were very involved and very passionate. And it's taking a while to unwind that passion, and I get it. But Kasich barely had his home state. I'm going, why are you being such a butthead? Why are you got to be that way? I don't understand it.
He was in fourth place out of three candidates for the longest time.
Yep.
And Rubio dropped out after Florida, and he still hadn't beaten Rubio yet.
But listen, Rubio and Trump went after each other.
Bad.
Hard. And Rubio respects the American process, and he's going. As he should. Cruz respects the process. The people that are involved, that work hard to make it happen. That starts out local, folks. If you run for precinct delegate, that's where all of the stuff started at. And that's why those folks know that that's what they need to do. It's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. So then I hear Kasich address the Michigan delegation.
Yeah.
I went, what do you mean he addressed the delegation? I'm offended, folks. I'm telling you, I am offended. He addressed it, and it reminded me of a little snake sneaking around behind the curtains. And I don't want nobody to see me. Put that camera down. I want to talk to you private. Thank you very much for what you did for me, but no, I can't talk. What ugly politics is that?
Well, Newt Gingrich was on this morning.
Yep.
On my way in, I was listening to him on Fox. And he said, this is ridiculous. This is appalling. He said, all Kasich had to do was show up.
It's reprehensible.
All he had to do was show up the first day and say, welcome to Ohio, and leave, and not come back the rest of the time. That's it. And he would have not had all this flack.
If I were an Ohioan, even if I were a Democrat in Ohio, I would think to myself, honest, really, you're not going to represent us?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
and it goes back to the story I told you folks about watching his display up on Mackinac Island. He's a mean-spirited little person, so maybe it's better that he doesn't represent Ohio on the international stage. But I'm offended by him. I really am. So I asked one of the delegates from Michigan, what did he say? Well, he came to thank everybody, and he specifically wanted to talk to his own delegation and thank them. I think that's fine. That's okay. He should have did it on the stage.
Yeah.
That's where he should have done it. Thank all Americans for taking such heart in this process. That's what the man should have done. He didn't have to endorse Trump. I get that. It's okay. I would have never asked anybody to endorse that doesn't want to. I hope Cruz does tonight. But if he doesn't, neither one of my hairs are going to catch on fire.
Yeah, I'm not going to turn away Cruz over it.
I'm not going to. I think he's doing the right thing by saying, yes, I accept your invitation, and I'll speak.
Well, what do you think about him not giving the speech approval beforehand? not giving it to the RNC or the Trump campaign for approval.
Listen, I don't know what he's going to say, but I can't imagine Trump taking the risk that Cruz is going to take a final shot at him. And I tell you, of course, I don't have any idea what's going on behind the scenes, but I have to speculate that they've got more of a dialogue exchanged than what the media thinks. I mean, even when I talk with the media, I laughed at us from last week also. We spent a third of the show last week pontificating on who was going to be the vice president, or at least the running mate. And of course, I'm a Newt guy. I told you that, but I was against him for the reasons that I stated. Age and I didn't think that it was good to have both of those guys with histories. Yeah. Baggage. I didn't. I thought, well, no. So when I look at Pence, I thought, you know what? For everyone that thinks that Trump is bombastic, I think Pence is a pretty reasoned choice. Geographically, politically, his look, his resume. Someone was joking me on Facebook this morning because he's got the radio talk show background. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should think of a career change. I said, no. I did that backwards, folks. I ran for office first, figured out I don't want to do that ever again in my life. And then I did the talk show host thing. He just kind of doing it. Now it's working out way better for him. Yeah. At least we think it. Maybe it's working out better for him.
I'm excited about Pence.
You know what, I am too. But it's a good thing because their demeanor is so different. Yeah. Trump is bombastic, and maybe at a time in our history when we need somebody to say, stop that. Yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is, and I'm trying to reserve the Enigma Report time slot for Chairman Ronna, so I don't know how I'm going to figure this out, but the Enigma Report today was actually going to be about immigration because that seems to be the hardest hit that he's taking. Everyone wants to say he's a racist, etc. And I want to dive into that. So maybe what we'll do is we'll go to break, and when we come back, let's dive right into that part because I think that's the area that the media and the uber left feel he's most vulnerable at. And I have to tell you, it's one of the areas that I actually really agree with him on, even though he wasn't my candidate. So let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to dive right into that headlong.
Renegade River, guns and ammo, and so much more. Old-fashioned service with surprisingly low prices. On M104 at the top of the new 231 bypass in Utica. Or find us at renegaderiver.com because you deserve it.
3, 2, 1, 0.
You have arrived to your final destination on your journey through reality. Welcome to the Enigma Report. Yes, I warmed up the transformer early today, so now here we are already in the Enigma Report.
Reminds me of Bones was always deathly afraid of going through the transporter. Anyhow, listen, by that, before I go on, this is Star Trek weekend coming up, and along with being a political junkie, I'm a Trekkie.
That's funny.
Why is that?
Because I don't watch Star Trek. I don't think I've ever seen any of the movies.
Yeah, I believe that.
I've watched all of Star Wars.
I can't stand Star Wars.
And you tell me that, you go, it's too unreal.
It's stupid.
Like, what is any more unreal about it than Star Trek? In fact, Star Trek seems way more unreal.
Oh, you're just so wrong-headed.
Star Trek weekend or week? This was on one of the cable channels?
No, the new Star Trek movie is getting ready.
Oh, they're rolling up to the release.
Rolling up to it, yeah. So that's a big deal. Now you got that. What's the guy's name? How do you say it? That just did the Save America thing.
Dinesh D'Souza.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Hillary.
His movie's coming out at the same time as this thing. So political wonk run into the start. I don't know which one I'm going to see first. It's a real challenge. That's a big internal fight going on. I'm telling you, folks. Maybe that's the real enigma. Listen, what I wanted to do for the Enigma Report and why we're kind of flip-flopping these segments is because I do want to talk with Chairman Ronna Romney-McDaniel in that time spot. But I wanted to make this spot about something that, and we've touched on it a few times over the years, but I genuinely don't understand the way the immigration issue or illegal immigration issue is being painted, specifically with the racist calls against Trump. And I say it because while I certainly would have articulated his position differently, that part, but part of it's just because people are different. I would say it differently than he said it. But in the end, when I pause and I even try to put my liberal hat on, where's my Ted Kennedy hat? And I try to back away and say, okay, what's the other side to this? I'm in favor of immigration. Okay, I watched Geraldo Rivera this morning on the early news out interviewing some folks from the Middle East that were nurses and doctors, and they're out doing a picket of the Cleveland convention. And of course, so he was looking for folks that didn't fall into the same slot that what I think is that Trump is trying to defend us from. What I don't understand, and it genuinely is an enigma to me, is why folks would want to erase our borders, why folks would want to get rid of an immigration policy. It seems like there's this argument from the two sides that says it's all or nothing, and that's just not the case. I think for a person to go through the immigration process, and it shouldn't take them years upon years upon years and many thousands of dollars. I agree with people on that. I think the system is broken. I think it's, but where I differ from the uber left on it is I think it's broken because of the size of government that they put forward. Yep. So you've got this big, gigantic monolith of a government, and it can't even get out of its own way. It's so huge. And, of course, that doesn't make this process chock full of common sense. It makes it chock full of stupid questions. It reminds me of the Form 4473 if you're going to buy a gun. Are you a criminal? Have you ever been found mentally, and you read these questions, what criminal is going to check yes on those? Oh
yeah. I did commit a crime yesterday.
Yeah, I'm a felon, and I just got out of the mental institute. But listen, the same vetting process we're using for the immigrants, that especially the ones that Governor Snyder and everyone seem to be bent over backwards trying to bring in.
Oh, it might even be less.
No, it's the same essential nonsensical questions. Are you a terrorist?
Oh, no.
Are you affiliated with any known terrorist organizations?
Not that I know of, no.
Do you aspire to be a doctor?
Yes, that's exactly
Would you like free education, housing, and a phone?
Ooh, tough question. Yeah.
When you read these things, political correctness is destroying America. It just is. It's like we've taken the concept of common sense and flushed it down the toilet and replaced it with absolute nonsensical thinking. It's insane to think that these questions are vetting anybody for anything, whether it's someone coming from a known terrorist area. And by the way, folks, I'm not saying you're automatically guilty because you're in a known terrorist area. Common sense says the reason you may be wanting to leave there is because it's a known terrorist area. I get that. But can we have a vetting system, please? The whole concept of loading everyone up on a bus and putting them in cities all over the United States and praying that they answer the questions honestly is ignorant.
Well, I do agree with, I think it was Ben Carson who said, if I had a bowl of M&Ms and one would kill you, would you take a handful? And everybody's common sense answer is no.
Right.
But we're willing to do that with our nation of just one being possibly a terrorist. Yeah. I believe in immigration. I know I'm mostly immigrant background.
Mostly. Entirely.
I do.
Entirely.
I guess entirely because
even the Native Americans were immigrants.
Yes.
Folks, it's just we've got to apply some science here and slow ourselves down and throw the political rhetoric away for a minute. Everyone's an immigrant, so yeah, I'm in favor of immigration. Do I want to just open the borders and erase them? No, I don't. Nobody ever has. Jefferson didn't, and anybody with a lick of common sense hasn't wanted to, unless they had a political motive. Unless their political self-driven agenda is more valuable to them than protecting the citizens of the United States, anybody with any honesty is going to look at this and say, yes, we need an honest vetting system. Let's not pick out Muslims, by the way. This is where I said I don't agree with this articulation.
Yeah.
I don't want to say Muslims. I want to say anybody. I don't care if you're from Scotland. I don't care if you're from Canada, by the way. If we don't have a proper vetting system in place for our immigration policy, that shouldn't take 5 years and $8,000. Mm-hmm. Okay, shouldn't. I agree. But if we don't have one in place, we need to slow the dogs down and say, let's pause and take a longer look and inject some common sense. I passionately believe that. So when I hear Trump talking about these things, by the way, the wall, I'm not with him on the wall. But listen, but I want the outcome he's pushing for.
Yeah, I want the result.
I want the result. And here's the difference between him and I is I think nobody has to pay for the wall. I think you turn off the free stuff. Folks, turn off the free stuff, and guess what will happen? The problem, folks, the folks that he talked about, not the good people, by the way, not the good people that want to come here and work and be an active member of our society and pay into it and take what they pay and you'll get something back for what they put in. Those folks are going to come anyhow. The people that are looking for a free stuff, the problem, folks, that I think he's after stopping will stop. I believe that. Now, there's some folks driving down the road right now saying I'm an idiot. Okay, maybe I am, but I'm telling you, it's just like setting up a pay plan for an employee. It's no different. You pay for what you want.
I can tell you.
We've got a pay plan that asks for people that don't want to work. That's insane.
Yeah, come get free stuff. I can tell you this, that I've said it before. Fritz's kids, they live in the Netherlands. His daughter and her husband and kids wanted to move here.
Yep.
They had to be 100% debt-free to get even the opportunity to come here. If they did get here at that point, Fritz would have been responsible for them 7 years financially. Meaning they weren't able to go on to Medicaid, welfare, anything for 7 years. He would have been financially responsible. Now they're coming from the Netherlands.
So that's different than if you're coming from Syria.
Yes.
Or Southern America.
Yes. The Europeans come here, and like when you said political agenda, Fritz came here, he's 100% conservative. He came here for two reasons: guns and the vote.
Fritz wanted guns and a vote?
Yep.
What's the difference between here and there? They vote? Aren't they a democracy?
90-some% taxes, can't own guns. They're
90s. That sounds reasonable. Doesn't he want to get back to the system?
Yeah. He got free health care, though.
Yeah.
You just paid for it, but
That's
it's
like,
free.
That's like Jana Kanechi when she was talking about living in the Soviet Union. She said, we didn't have very high taxes, but they didn't hardly pay us anything because you worked for the government.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, that sounds like a wash to me.
They just kept it.
They just kept it. We're not taxing you because you're not getting anything.
Yeah. Just think about it. We were going to give you a buck, but we're going to go ahead and keep it on taxes.
Listen, I got to tell you, when I look at this thing, my idea of fair, because everyone's always yelling about fair. I think the immigration policy for someone from Uruguay ought to be the same as someone from Scotland. Okay, but I think that we ought to not have something so incalculable, cumbersome that nobody does it. I think that's silly. I think that we need good people from around the world. I don't care where they're at. I think to say we're going to do better for these people than those people is racism.
Oh, yeah.
It is, to me, it is racism to identify we're going to do it different for this place than that place. But to me, it always goes back to funding, and it goes back to having a reasonable immigration policy. We need a reasonable, workable, viable, verifiable program, and we don't have any of that. So why don't we slow the navigation speed? If we were on a boat and we were coming into the harbor, we'd slow the navigation speed so that we didn't hit every dock on our way to our own. How much common sense does it take to say, let's slow the navigation speed?
It's almost like we have affirmative action on immigration.
We do.
Okay, we need to look more like we like the Middle East countries.
That's what they do.
We better let in more Muslim people. They don't have no papers, but we're going to let them in.
Somebody throw me a podium because I want to make a speech and have everyone think I'm wonderful. Yeah. Well, use your own money. Use your own freedom.
Do you remember Elian Gonzalez?
Uh-huh.
The little boy from Cuba that
with the assault rifle in his face.
Yeah. Done by who? What president?
That would be the Clinton administration.
Okay, yeah. Clinton's. But they want to increase 550% of the refugees.
Yeah.
But they sent back a little boy whose dad was a legal resident.
Yeah.
So when she wants to increase by 550% the number of refugees, just think about that once.
I got to tell you, when you look at math, when you start saying we want to increase percentages but you're creating a cause. You're not dealing with immigration of folks that want to immigrate. when you say we want to do this percent here and that percent there and this percent over here, you're no longer honestly dealing with folks that want to immigrate to the United States for the express purpose of becoming an American citizen, by the way. Not the express person of some free stuff or for someone to stand up on the podium and pat themselves on the back. When you are sitting there saying we need X percentage of those people, you're not at a supermarket picking people, folks.
What do we want
What kind
today?
of political mind thinks that that's a reasonable thing to do? That's insane to me.
Brian really liked that supermarket
But it's
line.
true. It's true. It's
It is.
true.
It's like they got a menu out.
I
What
want
do we need?
550% of those people, but I want less of those people. I want a lot more of those people and not so much of these people. Folks, that's racism.
It is.
It's racism. It's insulting. Now then when the Trump says we need to stop this, he's right. He's right. Do I agree with how he articulated it? No, I don't. I get it. But he's right. He's right. And if you sit down and get away from all of the, we talked about this before, Ben Franklin, when they had the Constitutional Convention, and there were several days into it, and it wasn't happening. There was no agreement in sight. None. And Ben Franklin called for a recess. Let's take 3 days off. And let's take those 3 days, not to go cohort with the people we agree with, but let's sit down with the folks we don't agree with and listen to them. And then let's come back with a prayer. Ben Franklin called for a prayer. And sometimes when I look at immigration, I think that we are so divided and it's become so political rather than common sense that maybe we need to follow Ben Franklin's advice on this topic. Slow the navigation speed ourselves and sit down and have an honest conversation with what we should anticipate. That's what I think. Are you flipping me out? What are you doing over there?
I know
wish
we
you
got
folks
some
could see
comments
Ludwig.
on the video, like our friend Jose.
What's
Morales.
Jose say? Jose Morales?
Yeah, from Holland.
What's he say? He's a great guy, by the way. What's he
His
say?
comment reads, as far as the wall,
Yep.
stop offering jobs and the people will stop coming. Not so much the free, in quotation marks, concept that keeps coming up. From the Latino side.
Does he wait? He said stop offering jobs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stop offering jobs and the people will stop coming. Not so much the free concept that keeps coming up. From the Latino side of things, majority come for jobs, not to live for free.
Yeah, and listen, I got to tell you, I think he's right about that. The problem with it is trying to determine who's who. That's the problem. I think that Jose is an honest man. I like him a lot. I consider him a dear friend. I do. But I think he would have to recognize that we have to have a legal process for whatever the motivation. Now, I don't, listen, I want the folks that are coming to work. I really do. I don't care if they're coming from Mexico or Argentina. Chile, I don't make, that part doesn't, it's a non-issue to me. So if they're saying that they want to come to work, God bless them. It's the folks that are not wanting to come to work that concern me. What other comments are you seeing?
No, he said before that one of the comments Trump had said was Mexico doesn't send its best people. And it's kind of stuck with him a little bit. But regardless, he supports Trump because he's a hardcore Republican.
Jose?
Yeah.
I got to tell you now, all jokes aside, with respect to him, if he's decided to support Trump, probably, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but if he's done that, he's had to move a lot. And if he's done that, I applaud. By the way, I had to move a lot. Yeah. I remember sitting with Jose talking. Neither one of us was excited about this very much. But then Miles Bauer caused me, you remember we talked about this on the air, Miles Bauer caused me to do exactly what Ben Franklin said, to stop hanging out with the people that are only telling me what I want to hear, or in this case, looking up all of the articles I wanted to read that reinforced what I believed, and start looking at it from a broader perspective. And when I did, I found out, you know what? He ain't so bad. I think Jose and I agree on this topic vastly more than he would, maybe even he knows. But it always goes to motivation. Why does a person come here? Jose came, I think he was born here, but I think the folks that want to come here to do what I said, if they want to come here to assimilate and become American citizens and productive members of our society, I really don't give a rat's butt where they come from.
No.
I'm on board with them. And our immigration policy ought to be something manageable that they can work with, not so convoluted that even the people doing it don't understand it. And folks, if you don't believe me, call immigration, ask them an easy question. I've done this. Even the folks that are handling it for us can't answer 4 or 5 easy softball questions because it's so convoluted, nobody understands it. Now, Jose would probably agree with me saying that because I'm right about it. No, do we want to prevent good people from coming to the United States because our system's so stupid? The people that put it together reminds me of Obamacare. Nobody understands that either. Remember what they said, the Obamacare stacked from the floor, what was like 7 foot tall? It was. They showed some guy that was 6'2" standing beside it, and it was, thousands of pages taller than him.
Got to pass it to read it, though.
Well, but here's where I'm going with that. The immigration policy is taller.
Yeah.
It's taller.
It's
Think about that. It's taller than that. So now you're a person living wherever you're living in the world. I don't care where you're from, and you don't speak English, but you would love to come here like the Polish folks did, like the German folks did, like every other, like the Irish, like in my family, the Scots. All of these folks have this dream to come to what we're building and be a part of it. And they got to understand that, and we can't understand it, and it's in the pile is so deep it's taller than Obamacare.
But you know what else is the problem with it?
That's insane.
With it is when they do get here, they go, I left my country to get away from this. Why are you guys going towards it?
Well, worse than that, when they get here, we're saying, you don't have to assimilate.
Yeah.
You can just stay over there in your own little corner so that when we're trying to get elected, we can come whisper in your ear and tell you stuff that we won't tell that group over there.
Unless you're European.
Those things are insulting to me. I want folks to come here and assimilate and want to be American and be a part of the system and help us make it better. That's what I want from immigration. And listen, I think that's what Trump wants too.
It is. Look at his wife.
Yeah.
She's from Estonia.
Oh, yeah.
Ask 10 people today. Mike, the first 10 customers walk in your store, ask them where Estonia is. They won't be able to tell you.
Where is it?
It's Eastern Europe.
Where in Eastern Europe?
It's on the Russian border.
Nice job. I thought for sure I was going to get the deer in the headlight look.
I know, what are you doing trying to question me? I'm putting a point on
last week I should have did that to you. You were so frazzled last week. You didn't know where Muskegon was at last week.
I'm in Estonia, next to Colombia. I don't know. But
listen,
if English is her 5th language, she's an immigrant. And you say he's against immigration?
Yeah.
Not possible.
Yeah.
He's against illegal immigration. He's against refugees coming here from foreign Islamic known terrorist states.
Yep.
Who could say they're for that besides Hillary Clinton?
Well, but it goes to motive. It's why they fund it.
Yeah.
It's why it's being funded with tax dollars.
George Soros behind that?
I don't know. He's behind everything. I thought it was G.W. Bush's fault, though.
Oh, that's right.
We've got 2 or 3.
Still his fault.
We've got 2 or 3 people that we lay all of our blame on from both sides of the aisle. And I got to tell you on this, here's where I get stoned. I still blame it on the electorate. Because we elect morons, and then when it becomes obvious they're morons, we reelect them. Yeah. And it's one of those, talk about one of those slap your forehead moments. Why'd we do that again?
I got a nice postcard in the mail.
Yeah.
I said they were 100% approved.
And it was addressed to me personally.
And it's signed?
Personally.
It was typed in black but signed with blue.
Little extra note that said hi.
Yeah.
I liked it.
We're counting on you.
Now, we didn't agree with that person at any single issue of the Times, but they sent us a postcard. That's all that matters. We feel warm and fuzzy now. I'm telling you that we've caused this. Both sides of the aisle, not in the last 5 years. It ain't G.W. Bush's fault. He didn't make the immigration policy taller than the Obamacare policy. That's the result of from 1950-something forward. And it is insane. And to my friend Jose's, I'll put words in his mouth. I'm sorry, Jose. But to his thought process, at least, it isn't functional. Let's make it work right so that we can look at immigrants and not fear them, by the way, but not have to hide an embarrassment. I know why you snuck in, because our immigration policy is ridiculous. That's not a way to run a country. That's just foolhardiness.
How about the guy?
Silly.
Like, I met a guy in Vegas in 2009. He was driving the...
Were you old enough to be in Vegas in 2009?
Yeah. 2009, not 1909 when you were there.
Ah, nice. I rode through on a horse.
Yes. In 1909, Vegas was probably like a Western town.
It was like a hitching post.
Mike's first job was he was holding one of the lights in the sign.
Yeah,
the
there you go.
No, anyways, this guy was from Vietnam, and he had left his family, his 2 kids and wife, to come here.
I got to stop you for a second. I'm yelling it's the electorate, and I'm blaming it on the people.
Yeah.
The ongoing argument with Miles and I, he's over here texting me, it's the politicians.
It's not.
It's not the politicians.
They don't go in without
we elect them.
Yeah.
I know I get scorched every time I say this, but Ted Kennedy he murdered a pregnant woman, and they reelected him for decades.
Yeah.
And that's not him. That's us. Sorry, Miles.
You're not here to defend yourself. No, you're wrong.
Yeah, if you can't defend yourself, you're in trouble.
Go cruise, Miles.
I'm sorry.
No, anyways,
Tell
but
me
he
your
was
story.
here. He had been here for 5 years without his wife and kids. Hadn't seen them because he was going through the process of being able to afford to get them here.
Right.
He had enough money to get one of them citizenship, so they had to pick straws. He lost. Had to come here, get citizenship, earn enough money to be able to afford to get his wife and 2 kids here. It took him 5 years.
Wow, that's silly. Now, to me, that's silly. When you know the person, when you can vet the person,
Yeah.
you can see the history of the person, you can vet them. Stop.
And obviously,
let's just
he wanted
stop.
to be here.
That's
That's sad.
But we get so hung up in the part of this is the echo chamber, and I'll use Facebook as an example. So people ratchet themselves up in their immediate circle, and the social media in general, TV. And we talked about it before with the Walter Cronkite era, where people used to you had 3 slices of news. They were probably all center left, but that's what your news source was. And now people, they just get on either social media and or cable TV, and they watch whatever news confirms what they believe, rather than whatever news is the news. And those things are problems to me. That's just what I'm thinking. Now, I don't know if I can say fart on the air. Can I say that on the air?
I guess so.
I'm Jim Riley. He's thinking I'm being a grumpy old fart today. I thought that's not hurts my feelings, Jim Riley. Shame on you.
That's come from Jim?
Jim Riley. He's probably got his sailor shirt on today.
He does that jam shirt, dancing around.
That's what I'm telling you. Well, all right. So the next step of this, before we run out of time, because I think we've got a phone call coming in, but the next step of this, just to follow what Miles is talking about, there was a lot of angst, a little bit of angst yesterday over the roll call vote, and whether it was improperly vetted or done or procedure was followed, and it was. I watched it. Not that I'm the authority, folks. I don't want to overstate myself, but when I watched it from beginning to end, in fact, you and I sat in the Denny's restaurant and watched it on CNN TV. It went the way it was supposed to go. So, listen, folks, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Chairman Ronna Romney-McDaniel. Folks, we'll be
This is the Mike Hewitt Show on News Talk 1090 WKBZ and West Michigan's Talk 1230 WTKG.
Renegade River, guns and ammo, and so much more. Old-fashioned service with surprisingly low prices. On M104 at the top of the new 231 bypass in Utica. Or find us at renegaderiver.com, because you deserve it. And this is the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by renegaderiver.com, and we are already into segment number 3.
Hey, welcome back. If you're just dialing in, Ludwig von Wiedendorsky is in the studio. I'm Mike Hewitt. Brian Thomas is on, keeping us on path. On the line with us is Michigan State Republican Party Chairman Ronna Romney-McDaniel. Ronna, welcome back.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, now you're right in the thick of it at the Cleveland GOP convention, right?
We are. It's lots of fun. Everybody's excited. It's such a great environment to be on a convention floor and see all the other delegations. And it's just been a really wonderful experience for the whole Michigan crew.
Now tell me, we don't have a lot of time, but I want to run you through some of the easy stuff if I can.
Sure.
Not easy stuff, actually, the stuff I'm probably most curious about. But on day one, with there was a little bit of angst evidently over what was going on the floor with votes. The media painted it to be really harsh, and what was it really like on day one during the voting process?
You know, for the Michigan delegation, we're pretty united behind our nominee, and it was actually just kind of fun. There was a lot of energy. Of course, we knew there were going to be some challenges. It was very clear that the Trump contingent had more votes than they won, and we're moving on, and we're behind the nominee. And a lot of that vote was about rules and procedure.
Right.
And but fun convention stuff. If you've been to a convention, stuff like that happens pretty regularly.
Yeah, so you from your vantage point, it wasn't uber over the top craziness. It wasn't a house divided and all of the things that CNN like to report.
I don't know about you, Mike, but sometimes it seems to me like the media overblows a story or two.
Oh, man.
that might have been one of them.
Ronna, you're a master at understatement again.
I thought the roof was on fire the way they were.
Very, very nice.
Oh, my goodness. I know it's funny to be on the floor like the first night with the speeches that were so moving, to hear the mother of Sean Smith from Benghazi, to see the Benghazi.
Very
soldiers.
Emotional.
And then to find out later that CNN was talking over those speeches.
Yeah.
And we come out and they focus on a little tiny section of Melania Trump's speech rather than the content of what was discussed that evening. It's actually disheartening.
It was, Ronna, it was disheartening, but it was really deserving of the public, in my view. She wrote, I don't know who wrote it, but it was a fantastic speech with less than 60 seconds worth of words that were similar. And by the way, I printed them out and compared them because the media was telling me I'm a writer. So plagiarism is something that means a lot to me. If I found the pages of one of my books in somebody else's, I'd be on the warpath. But the reality of it is that there were very common ideas, but it wasn't plagiarism. And when I say common ideas, it was less than 60 seconds of common ideas is what it was. I printed them, I laid them side by side. And the irony to it is that same media never excoriated Obama for dozens of similar, not even similar, outright plagiarists.
Well, and she had a message to give, and it was a very important message. She talked about her love of this country, her absolute patriotism, coming here from Slovenia and getting her citizenship, and then about her love of her family, something we can all relate to. And then she introduced her husband in a way that none of us know him. And that's what the media should have been reporting on, instead of little tiny common phrases that she happened to have in common with another speech. And I hope the public ignores the media on this, and they go and they watch the convention and get the content for themselves instead of trusting them to deliver what happened.
I think this, I had a friend text me during that speech, and he said, would it be inappropriate of me to say, move over Jackie O? And I have to tell you, I think that's why the uber left reacted so vitriolly, because they see her as a significant threat. And she is. She to me, in fact, our last segment was about immigration. And I think she's the picture of what we can be with immigration.
Absolutely. And she loves this country. And that's something we didn't hear Michelle Obama talk about that much in her speech. But Melania Trump did. And that's a theme that resonates across this country, how great this nation is and how privileged we are to be here and how we want to fight to keep it the great nation that it is. And, of course, the media didn't want to share that part of her story, but guess what? We fundraised off it, so we'll tell that story.
Now listen, for me, we're coming into some of my favorite parts of this process. I was a cruiser, so I'm really anxious to see his speech, and I've been most of my political life since 1980 or so. Maybe a hair after that, 84, 86, whatever. I've been a huge Newt Gingrich fan since the mid-'80s. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to hear his comments. And I'm very jealous of you. I wished I was there with you, Ronna.
Me too.
Well, I'm going to be handing my delegate badge to someone who was a Cruz supporter tonight. I'm not going to be on the floor. I think that's the right thing to do as a delegation. When you have that delegate privilege, you hand it off to somebody else and you let them share in that opportunity. So
yeah, good for them and good for you.
Passing that off to others tonight.
Listen, I got to tell you, and not to embarrass you on the air here, but that's one of the reasons that I really support you as chairman. You do those kind of things that I think really exemplify what the GOP is supposed to be. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'll come on your show anytime, Mike.
Yeah, see, I got to say nice things.
Ronna, can I ask you a question? Is it as cool to be there as it looks? This is Matt Wiedenhoeft, better known as Van Ludwig, but I've always wanted to go to one of these. I remember the foam hats back in the, last Reagan and Bush. Is it that much fun?
Oh, it is so cool. And, I'm a political junkie, okay? So there are people who would love to go to the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup. This is my Super Bowl. I love it. And it's just so wonderful to see all the fun things that people wear, how the delegations get different props, people exchange pins. It's so excited to come together. And Cleveland, I have to say, has done such an amazing job. And they deserve so many accolades for the security. Everywhere you go, people say to you, thank you for coming to Cleveland. Their downtown is outstanding. It's just been a wonderful experience. So you better come to the next convention. We got to get you there.
I want to so bad. It's a bucket list. And you can ask Mike. I've talked to how do I go? So
Very, very, very nice. Listen, once we get past this, as the election year, the general really heats up, we will get you back on. And I know you are busy. Trying to put the schedule to get you on was difficult, but I genuinely really appreciate it, Ronna.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, you guys.
All right, Chairman Ronna Romney-McDaniel. That's a mouthful.
it is.
Thank you very, very
sure
much.
She's awesome.
Thank you very, very much. And folks, listen, do me a favor. Find us on Twitter he's got his signs going again. Find us on Twitter at Talk Mike Hewitt, Facebook /The Mike Hewitt Show. You guys are ruthless. 15 seconds. Folks, find us on social media. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. We'll talk to you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.